You will see the people who have become the CEOs are the ones who have stuck around for many, many years, because then you have grown with the company.
How can young professionals in their 20s strategically maximize their salary growth?
Currently, LinkedIn is, I would say, the best place. Reaching out on social media, networking events, secondly, are great.
What do these top companies usually value when hiring?
How good they are at closing sales, retaining sales, I think that's what's important.
What do you think is the most realistic way that a college student can earn their first lakh?
A lot of people are trying to do one job, then a side hustle, then a side hustle. No, that's not good. So if you're angel investing, you can actually put it up on your bio that, actively in angel investing. Trust me, you'll be stated with enough people reaching out.
How can kids from tier 2 or tier 3 cities achieve their dreams?
I would say
Welcome back to another episode of She Means Business, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and successes of remarkable women across industries. Today's guest is a powerhouse with over 15 years of experience spanning tech, management consulting, media, financial services, and healthcare. Miss Neiharika is not just a seasoned professional. She's also been an angel and crypto investor since 2015, bringing a bold and early perspective into the investing world. This episode is packed with wisdom, honesty, and actionable takeaways. Let's get into it. So you've switched jobs quite a few times. What's the reason behind that?
So switching jobs is not something that was planned. I think life's been very interesting that way, that I decided to take the steps as they sort of appeared before me. My background's in sociology, so back in the day, this was really not the standard, I would say, educational background that you went into the corporate world with, but that actually helped me. So differentiated from the others because of that background. And that, when at the point of time when you were looking at resumes, whether it was in consulting, whether it was in corporate, in the corporate world, those resumes used to stand out, which were not standard, right? So having that sociology background helped getting my first job, which was in marketing. That was super fun, and it was exciting because at that point in time, my dream person, or the person I looked up to, my role model, was Indira Nui. I think she was a trailblazer and set the bar so high for everyone. But very soon I realized that following anyone else's path is not possible, because the times are different, the variables are different, so you have to figure out your own. From there, I realized that I needed to be in the States, so life took me there. And there, consulting just became what I wanted to do. So I took up consulting and I went in for my business school. And like I said, things sort of unraveled or sort of appeared as they would from there on. And honestly speaking, even though that was not the path I decided to take, I'm so glad I did that, because that hopscotch between marketing and then finance and consulting gave that whole sort of holistic perspective, which really helped in my journey later on in angel investing.
So were the switches mainly about like new experiences, or was it more like salary related? Or
I wish it was as fun as new experiences. It's usually not just new experiences, because when you're, especially in the States, it was a lot to do with who would sponsor your visa, right? It's a very practical decision at that point in time. So consulting used to be the standard, which would, like, it was one of those A-grade roles which would also sponsor your visa, and hence that's where I went. But I would say once that confidence came in, that yes, whether it's marketing, whether it's consulting, whether it's finance, I can do all of them. From there on, it became more about picking what I wanted to do.
so what are your top 3 learnings from working across different organizations and industries?
First would be, honestly, speak your mind. Thinking, a lot of people don't want to, I would say, rock the boat. You think that, hey, I'm in this job, let me just figure out and let me be that person who's likable. Not really. I would say it's always helped me to stand up and speak up. And sometimes that could be at the expense of, I won't say rubbing people the wrong way, but going against the general vote that is going. But that is what differentiates and leaves sort of an impression on anybody else's mind. So you are called back for that. So having that sort of personality, being yourself, I would say those 2 things. And then the third would always be figuring out how whatever you are doing is contributing to the top line vision. Just saying, hey, I'm doing this, and give me the credit for that usually doesn't work. In a large corporate setup, more often than not, you have to make sure whatever you're doing is sort of aligned to the larger goal, and that when you translate it or when you speak about it in those terms, it really grabs the attention of senior management because they feel you're sort of working with them and for them.
So in your opinion, what do these top companies usually value when hiring?
So I would say the top three things are: first, good communication skills. Communicate what you're thinking effectively, clearly. Nobody can read your mind. I think that a lot of times people keep their ideas with them. Maybe the Gen Z does not have this problem, but definitely as millennials, we suffered from it. It was all in our head, and we were like, how do we speak about it, right? So speaking up is very important. Secondly, being authentic. Put in work which is yours, which is not chat GPT inspired, which is not AI pushed, because the person sitting on the other side would be able to judge that, and they are paying you for your work, not for the work of AI, right? They would write just as well, pick up the subscription and put in the prompt themselves. So the human element is very, very important, and I think that goes without saying. Put in that emotional quotient or your perspective, that's going to help. And then the third is going to be: own up to your mistakes. It is absolutely human to have had mistakes, not have had plans, and life just appeared. But to say, oh, I just knew exactly I was going to do this. I don't know anybody who can, say that 5 years down the line, this is what I wanted to do. I mean, to give an example, right? Zomato, I don't think even started off thinking this is where they would end up. It is beyond their wildest imagination as well. So just sort of talk about your path in an authentic manner. And I think that's when you talk about it like that, that's what the companies are looking for.
You said about AI, but do you think there's times where AI can be beneficial as well?
Yes, I think it can be beneficial to some degree, but this could be a whole podcast in itself. I have very strong opinions about AI, specifically the ethical use of AI. Just an interesting tidbit is that AI now is where cybersecurity was about 10 years back. We created data, we've let it out, and then we're trying to secure it. It's not possible. Similarly, once AI reaches a certain stage, the ethical aspect of AI, so this is the concept of singularity, right? When enough data is going to be created by AI, how will you know it is human created or AI created? And then if AI is picking up from that data to further give you opinions, then it is no longer a human opinion. So just from that perspective, I am not okay with it. So I try to, in my life, personally avoid it as much as I possibly could. I do value my privacy and my opinion way more. But I do believe that there are some certain jobs which are repetitive in nature, which can be replaced by AI, which could be better use of time. However, complete leaning, which I have started to see now with a lot of people, whether it's submission of their academic projects, even people at work, their answer is, let me just go to chat GPT and ask, right? I personally think that's just not the way, because still, if you think about it, large data can only directionally tell you where to go. The aha moments or epiphany is very human related. So that sort of innovation will not come through with AI.
And how can young professionals in their 20s strategically maximize their salary growth?
Yeah, that's a good one. Maximize the salary growth. Well, I think the traditional way people would think is switching jobs, because I'm going to put it out there. I have seen consistently very few stories you see of people sticking. So if you would see the standard data, it'll say that people who've switched jobs 3 to 4 years, found greener pastures is usually where they have grown early in their career. But from mid-level management to senior level management, you will see the people who have become the CEOs are the ones who have stuck around for many, many years, because then you have grown with the company. So if you are in the early stages, I would say figure out what are the right moves at the right time.
What made you decide to start angel investing in startups?
I started investing, I would say, in startups or in general, because I realized that my money has to work for me when I'm not working. If I'm working all the time, then there is only 24 hours in a day, 365 days. There's only so much my money can grow. So investing per se is very important. And angel investing at the time, 2013-14, as an asset class was coming up, specifically in the US, because the story of Uber was all over the place, right? So that was the first, I think, in my generation, we really thought of something as a startup, and the concept of venture capital money coming in and growing it super quickly was the conversation of the day. That's when I tried to see what was happening in India, because honestly, my dollars weren't going to go far as a young professional in the US, right? But the conversion coming back to India and my savings could actually help me invest more here. So that's sort of where I started.
And what exactly is angel investing for people who don't know?
Angel investing is when an individual invests, usually in early to mid stage startups, because that's only when an individual can come in. And the concept of angel investing is that apart from just your money, an angel will give you time, advisory, strategic help, open their network. So apart from the money, you get a lot of other benefits from that person's time and network.
As an angel investor, what do you personally look for in early stage startups or founders?
I would say clarity of thought, again, authenticity, and people who are not just going for flavor of the season. In venture capital, every 18 months there is a wave or a certain flavor of the season, but someone who's building for something to last beyond it is what I'm looking for. If you're just going to be building for AI, I think about 12 months back, people who had got nothing to do with AI started adding AI to their decks just so that they could raise capital. And then they did, but then they were calling it generative AI. And when you really, scratch the surface, you realize it wasn't that. So that inauthenticity is a massive red flag. So not that, but if you're building even a standard old school business, but something to last generations, then why not? I think that's the sort of business I would rather invest in.
And what is something you do to ensure that you'll get some returns on your investments?
Again, I wish we could, like, there's no shorty. Angel investing, like any other investing, comes with an immense amount of risk. However, getting to know the founder, having access to regular calls, accounts, really, really helps, because then there is that sort of responsibility and accountability. And you also have eyes in as to what is happening, which is very important.
Could you share a story of one of your investments, like the best investment you've made?
Sure. So I would say the best investment I've made is into a startup called Track Now. Um, they are into the logistics field, a husband-wife duo based out of Ahmedabad. And what I really liked was that their story came from a very personal experience. And then during COVID, when that use case didn't apply, they pivoted and they continue to be very frugal. So they have been making profits without raising capital for at least a couple of years before we came in. And the way they've gone about sales and the way how good they are at closing sales, retaining sales, I think that's what's important, because it's very nice to do large projections, but if you are not going to be good with the customer and the numbers don't show up on your accounts, then it's a big problem. And the very fact that they did that, and then when they have gone ahead and raised, they've also raised from large family offices, which again sort of to me underlined that we were on the right path, because family offices usually put in money in what they think is something that will last for longer.
What is the best way for young founders to grab the attention of angel investors?
So currently, LinkedIn is, I would say, the best place. Reaching out on social media or something like a LinkedIn, DMing them, making it specific, relevant to what they are doing, what they're talking about would be great. Networking events, secondly, are great. Third would be communities. There are lots of communities which are founder and funder cohorts, sort of, or cohabiting communities. To become a member of that is also great because you get access to them.
For someone who's unsure about their direction, how do you think they should go about choosing their right career path?
That's a very, very good one. There is no right career path. I mean, my resume gives an example of that you kind of hopscotch and jump, but you'll be fine just anyway. I will say what feels right to you at that point in time is only what you can commit to yourself. You actually do not know what you're going to be where you're going to be 3 or 5 years down the line. Also, the way technology is changing and the world is changing. A lot of jobs which were relevant 5 years back are irrelevant now, and and there could be new jobs created now, which wouldn't have existed 5 years back. So I will just say today, think about what is it that you really like to do, and at the end of the day, figure out what your values are. So do you like hustle or do you like structure? Are you good with, or do you like, are you a self-starter or do you work better in a team? These answers for you are going to be more important in figuring out the direction versus today AI is what I want to do, or today creative marketing is what I want to do. These final answers, they last usually, or these personality traits last longer than the sectors.
So, what do you think are three traits that a teenager should learn before they turn 20?
There is no such thing as FOMO. Please take FOMO out of your life. Everybody's on their own path and you will be just fine. I think that is something we tell ourselves as well. It's not just you, to be honest. Everybody who's on, there is this artificially created culture of hustle, and that leaves no one anywhere because you're burning out faster. So this is a marathon, this is your life, and you're going to figure out a path. You'll be just fine. So FOMO, do not compare to other people. They figured this out at this point in time. You're on your own path. Secondly, have good work ethics. By that I mean work ethics that translate into your life as well. So complete a job. I think this need for procrastination or laziness is not a good thing in general with anything in life. So if you've decided to do something, do it and see it through. That sort of accountability is important. And then thirdly, be open to feedback. Um, Again, maybe, and I'm just going to do a thing, maybe it's a generalization, but I've felt that the younger generation is not very open to feedback because we feel it's not an attack. It is just generally someone trying to speak, give you some perspective. We may not sound the right way. Millennials are not always correct officially or in terms of our, we've not been taught that way how to use the right words. But what we're really trying to do is maybe figure out what is the best for a team to work. So I think just try to work a little bit extra in terms of communication skills. Understand that whoever's on your team is usually working with you and on the right path. So I always like to tell people, you would be surprised the world's full of nice people and everybody actually is pretty nice. No one's out there to get you. If you go in with that perspective and you give that person that benefit of doubt, you'd be surprised as to see how many doors open up.
And so, what do you think is the most realistic way that a college student can earn their first lakh?
The most realistic way would be to work your butt off and get a really good stipend, because that's the most structured way if you can. Apart from that, I would say if you get a certain amount of money and you're comfortable and your expenses are taken care of, so do some budgeting yourself, start investing. I do think there is absolutely nothing wrong in starting out with investing a little bit in the stock market. The Indian stock market is a good place. Yes, it's extremely inflated right now, but let's be honest, there's no other asset class that you can invest in when you're starting out from scratch. Everything else requires a certain amount of corpus. So testing that out helps. Even if you lose the money, I would say it's important because it'll build confidence in yourself that you can take financial decisions. So it's your money. If it's your hard work earned money, spend it on that instead of a meal outside.
My last question is, what's the smartest way that someone in college or an early career can maximize their earning potential?
Is not to do too many things, is to do that one thing absolutely right. Whatever it is that you're good at, if you give it your 100%, you will do the best. I think a lot of people are trying to do one job, then a side hustle, then a side hustle. No, that's not good, because you're never going to figure out what it is that you're really good at, and you'll be stretched out and then you will feel burnt out. So whatever it is that you're deciding to go for, like I said, go back to your value set. What values work for you? What makes you happy? And that in conjunction with what is paying fairly okay. If you start on that path, you will eventually by virtue of elimination start figuring out this is what that doesn't work for me. Once you've eliminated enough things, you will know exactly what works for you.
What does success mean for you as a woman entrepreneur?
Success means for me that I am happy and I'm in as many moments possible as I can, financially secure and at ease, and I have nothing to prove to anyone.
How did you look at money as a kid versus how you look at it now?
Oh, money as a kid was, not even a concept I had, because I was put on this, I come from a family of civil servants. So money was, very specific. We were only given so much money to go spend on anything. At a certain age in my 20s, it became an achievement benchmark. In my 30s, it was something to be indulged in, like I could buy the things I wanted. And now I would say for me, it is just something which is there. I don't think about money anymore.
And do you think that going to college still holds value versus real world experiences?
I definitely think going to college holds value. It is almost a social experiment. You need to know how to live with other people. I know a lot of young folks had many years or 2-3 years, critical years taken in isolation because of the pandemic. And you realize that at the end of the day, you have to interact with other people in the world. So going to college, I would say, like, if you're doing a job by yourself as a professional where your interaction with other human beings is minimal, I would not advise that. If it's a job in which it's a role in which you're interacting with many people, for sure, go for it. College generally teaches you a little bit of discipline, and being comfortable with authority. I think that's also important.
And how can young people network up the food chain? Like, does college help with that? And how?
Oh, definitely. Most definitely. Your first network is going to be the alumni network. So that's why getting into a great school, great university is as good as, I mean, why do people want to take up a certain zip code or address when they buy a house? Because those are the people you will run into. So if you end up going to a certain school, those are the people you get access to for the rest of your life.
What are 3 mistakes that every teenager should avoid?
There are no mistakes you should avoid apart from drugs or your health issues. I would say because mistakes are natural. What is it? I mean, if you're going to be constantly thinking about, I'm not going to step on it, you are going to step on it. So don't think about what you're not going to do because you are going to end up doing it. It's a little bit of a. Have you watched Kung Fu Panda? Okay, so that's my absolute favorite series. I mean, it's a random shout out, but if ever anyone wants any feel good or spirituality or you want to feel anchored, please watch that movie and that series. It's amazing. But you don't think about what you're not going to do. So noodle, don't noodle, right? That's what Ugwe says. Um, Go in with what is it that you want to do. If you want to, I would say experimentation or making mistakes shouldn't be at the expense of hurting people or hurting yourself. But figuring things out is absolutely normal. That's what your youth is about. Don't be trying to eliminate all risk. It's not possible. There are variables larger than ourselves, and if we constantly keep thinking about eliminating all sense of risk, then you will be in nothingness, and that makes no sense.
So, since you started angel investing at quite a young age, how do you find people to invest in at that?
So again, for me, it was the Economic Times. I was back home and I read an article about these kids who were on the business school circuit and going for business case competitions. I would say that was a great point then. But today, I would say again, LinkedIn would be great. Networking events would be great. And if you're very, very focused about it, trying to associate yourself with incubation centers of the IITs and the IIMs. That way, the founders are background checked. There is a little bit of authenticity in terms of what they're doing. And because the interface is through a government organization or a large institute, it adds credibility. So I would say incubation centers are also a great place to go find startups, and especially deep tech startups. Interesting fact, IIT Madras takes a little bit of equity out of each of the startups it incubates, and currently I think it's one of the most valued portfolio in the country, if not the single most.
So, LinkedIn, how does one start getting active on LinkedIn?
So if you're angel investing, you can actually put it up on your bio that actively in angel investing. Trust me, you'll be inundated with enough people reaching out saying, "Hey, can I set up an initial call?" Then it is up to you to go through them and figure out what is real, what is not, because then you have to do your research as well. Check out their profiles, maybe try to find out common people, meet that person at least a few times before you can even figure out whether they're credible or not.
So, when you meet with people, is there something that's an immediate red flag for you?
Yeah, people who name drop a lot, like I was here, I was there, this is the person I met, and if you're really working on what you're working, you will have no time to think about who you met, what you did, and you don't talk about it. You'll see the passionate founders are just so heads down. This is what I'm building, and this is what I think is important. I think social climbers or hustlers are different from founders. They're not the same.
Are there any bad investments that you've made?
Of course, I think I mean, there are a few investments. One that went down because I would say the founder authenticity was not checked. And again, I have learned as an angel investor over the years. So it's not like my first angel investment was very thought out, right? It was more of a impulse decision or passion decision. Then something went down right now, a portfolio company which I was very, very proud of, which was doing great work, but they had a parallel company. The founders were also part of another company, which was then got caught up in in some other stuff, because of which that other company went down. So things like that. And again, these are things you cannot foresee. When we invested into the founder and into the business use case, both of which were completely valid.
Is being from a tier 1 city an unfair advantage, and how can kids from tier 2 or tier 3 cities achieve their dreams?
I would say 15 years back, it was an absolute unfair advantage, and maybe even till 5 to 7 years back, it was an unfair advantage, not so much anymore. In fact, if anything, the growth in India is happening in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and specifically in sectors such as infrastructure, D2C, banking, financial services. So if you're actually from those cities, you have you have the edge because you actually know what the use cases, what the problem statements are. Someone who's never stepped out of certain zip code in Delhi is not going to know what's the problem in Gorakhpur and beyond, right? And that's where really the money lies. So the money is now not, I would say, at the top of end of the pyramid. It's somewhere in the fat middle of India, which is Bharat, which is the tier 2, tier 3 city. So being from there is great. And again, access to social media, LinkedIn, such platforms reduce the distances, if there were any, to minimal. So you can actually get on a VC call with anyone from anywhere and have that conversation and pitch your idea.
And also, does switching jobs often have a negative impact on the resume?
No, it does not. It again is up to you. It's your journey. What you believe, how you sell it is, again, like I said, with a little bit of authenticity is what is going to be true. If you really just did it for switching the money and that's what you think yourself is unfair and that's what you're going to put across, then that's what the HR person or the manager is going to pick up. But if you say, hey, I realized that my potential was better served at another organization and I made the moves that I did, which were right for me and for my growth, then no, someone's not going to have an issue with it. And if that does not align with the new organization's ethos, then anyways, it was going to have friction. So, right, so that makes no sense to be part of them anyway.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is, you build your own path, whatever that path is, and you have to pick out, are you trying to be the mode, median, or average? I don't think I'm trying to be any. And I've realized there's no point, at least for me, trying to be any. So if you're not, then there is no point figuring out what is it that most people are doing. That's the mode. What is the average? It's going to be skewed because either ends will decide. And the median means you're just another person. So I don't think you should go by any of these.
That's an interesting way to think about it. So thank you so much for joining me. This conversation was very interesting. I didn't know much about angel investing before, but now I definitely want to get into it in my later life.
I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.